Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Sports Chatter with Bax and Patter. I'm your host, Brandon Bax.
I'm Patter.
And this is going to be a sports podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about the four major sports groups. We're going to talk some NFL, some NBA, NHL, MLB, whatever sports is going on. We're going to talk about it on this show.
Yeah, we're basically two buddies on a couch just having conversations we have in our daily life, but we figured we'd bring you guys in on it and see if we can't get something rolling here.
And we've got a few segments planned, and we'll see if they take off or if they kind of fall flat on their face. We're going to try and do a little injury wrap-up every once in a while. We're going to try and get into the whatevers, the whatever signings, the whatever happened to this prospect type of segment. And we're going to kind of go from there with the segments and see if we can come up with anything new and exciting.
Yeah, it is January 11th, 2017, so we're picking up the news around then. It's playoff time in the NFL. NHL is just heating up, that kind of thing. MLB offseason, why don't we start there, Bax?
We'll start with the MLB offseason. We are based in Southern Ontario, so we're going to talk Blue Jays, and we're going to talk Toronto teams mostly for the big three, but we'll get into NFL playoffs and all that in just a little bit. We'll talk a little about the Jays, though. They've been in the news for the last 2-3 years since Alex Anthopoulos made the big news in 2013, making all those trades and all those signings. Made the big playoff run in 2015 and 2016. Kind of hit a wall here, though, in the 2017.
Yeah, and I just don't see them having any sort of clear direction here. I mean, you have those two guys from, we like to call them Shatkins around here, from Cleveland, and it seems to me like they'd be better off suited to go for a rebuild right now, Bax, but they're kind of 1 foot in the grave, 1 foot trying to dig themselves out.
Yeah, they're kind of in flux right now, where I think Shapiro and Atkins, they came in knowing this team was going to be competitive in 2016. They wanted to see it through. They didn't want to blow it up because they knew this was a team that could potentially win the World Series in 2016. They made it all the way to the LCS for the second straight year.
But they didn't make any moves to make it happen at the deadline.
So, and I think they're really kind of shackled.
BJ Upton's not going to cut it.
BJ Upton did not cut it. He did not cut it. He's still on the team, though. But I think Rogers has really kind of got them in a corner here where they're a top 5 payroll team, but they're not going to be a number 1 payroll team. They're not going to be able to spend their way to a championship like the Yankees, like the Red Sox have in the past. They're going to have to build from within. They're going to have to trade. They're going to have to draft well. And I think that's what Shapiro and Atkins are really. They're going to have to
But
shine.
Right now, with the pitching staff we have in Toronto, or they have, I guess, in Toronto, they need to be a top spender. They need to spend there is no cap. Like, who cares how much they spend? I'm sick and tired of people saying, oh, Rogers won't spend this much. Rogers can't spend this much. It's a $1 billion corporation. You can spend whatever you want. It's the fact that they don't want to.
You sure can. Yeah, I think they have a budget on this team, and they know what they're going to make no matter what they spend, and it's up to our management team to kind of get them there, to kind of get them to the playoffs every year, to kind of get them a little more money in their pockets, and then maybe they'll start investing again. Maybe they won't. I don't know how they do business at Rogers, but I mean, it's not the way that a lot of Jays fans around here would like to see them doing business. That's for sure.
No, and I mean the signings that they're making and not making, like they didn't bother circling back on Eddie there. They said they wanted to get younger and faster. They signed 2 33-year-olds and combined them with
Kendrys Morales and Pierce there.
Yeah, who are old and slow.
Yeah, I think the. Well, let's get into Edwin Encarnacion first. They had a chance to sign him before the season even started, and once the season started, Edwin said, "You know what? No, I'm not going to talk."
They probably could have got him at a discount before the season started too.
They could have got him for a discount, but what would the discount have been? Would it have been what Cleveland ended up giving him, $60 million? Who knows what he would have gotten before the season started?
They offered him the $20 million over and 4 years,
4 years,
$80 million. Which is more than he's getting in Cleveland there. So yeah. I don't understand who dropped the ball. I mean, obviously the agent overplayed his hand, and
I think the Blue Jays moved on a little too quickly.
I don't think they wanted him.
You don't think the Blue Jays wanted to re-sign him in the end?
No, like you lowballed his offer, the projected offer that the Ian Kinsler, his agent, had out there, and that the Blue Jays were thinking of was 5 years, $125 million, and so they lowballed him with 4 years at at 80 million. And
now seeing the offer that he got from Cleveland, 5 years, 125 million seems a little ridiculous, doesn't it?
well, it does. But that's what they were projecting. And so the Jays decided, hey, we'll lowball you just to make the fans happy, qualify the offer so that we get the draft pick, and move on with our merry rebuild lives here.
So with Edwin out of the picture, they got Morales. They've got a guy for 3 years, 33 million, basically 11 million a year. A guy that could get probably about three quarters of the numbers Edwin would have brought in, don't you think? A 30 home run, 75 RBI kind of guy.
Don't tell me that you're going to get younger and faster and then go sign a slow 33-year-old. I don't care how many home runs he gets. That's not going to work here. We've had high offenses in the past, and they get to the playoffs and they just fall off. Who's to say this guy's going to make any difference whatsoever? It's the small ball that works.
We need a hit for average type of guy. I need a hit for power, maybe secondary.
Bring back my buddy Ben Revere.
Ben Revere. We've had plenty of discussions about Ben Revere in the past, but we're kind of watching a few Jose Bautista highlights here, and he's back in the news. The Jays are talking to him again.
Back on him.
They circled back on him for the umpteenth time this offseason. What do you think about Jose Bautista maybe coming back?
It's going to take him swallowing a lot of pride to come back. I mean, the guy wanted, 5 years, 150 million last offseason?
A ridiculous amount.
Oh, I don't know why they even considered paying. As soon as I heard that, I was like, no, I'm out. The guy's, 36 years old. He's not going to play till he's 41. I mean, sure, you get the odd ones like Big Pappy there, but not too often it comes around. And I don't know if he's got the pride to swallow that.
And you're seeing now a lot of guys like a Carlos Beltran or some of the older sluggers, they're taking 1-year deals the rest of their career. And you know what? Beltran has made more than a lot of top-tier MLB players. Maybe a player like Bautista needs to...
And he's done a lot more.
Yeah, and maybe he needs to take these 1-year deals and say, that's the best I'm going to get.
I mean, out there I'm hearing the number around 15 mil, and I just don't see him taking that.
If you're over 30 now in today's MLB... Unless you're Bryce Harper, and he's not close to 30 yet, but unless you're that caliber of player, then you're not getting the big deal. Donaldson's coming up in free agency. Does he get the big deal in 2018?
Not from Toronto.
Maybe not from Toronto.
Not from
Atkins and
by
Shapiro.
The end of next year, I don't think Donaldson's a Blue Jay anymore. I think he's getting traded.
So that's going to be something good to kind of circle back on and see.
Bold
prediction, hot take here. But let's get into Andrew McCutchen. Because he is the Jays need outfield help. And what do you think about Andrew McCutchen possibly getting traded to the Toronto Blue Jays?
I mean, again, wrong side of 30. Sure, he was
I think
good.
He is 30 right now.
Yeah, but it's the wrong side. He's a good player, but I just don't see the Blue Jays, having the assets to make that deal or to be willing to get rid of to make that deal. And I just don't see him being that much help here.
I've heard that there's been rumors out there that the deal would have to start with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's only 17 and many years away from being good for this team, and a potential pitching prospect like a Connor Green or a Sean Reed Foley. Would that deal be okay in your mind, due to the fact that our window of winning is 1 to 2 years now, max? With the core that we have here.
That's a tough one, Max. I don't know if I'm making that deal. Because even if you do get him, I don't see that window. I don't see him as that guy that puts us over the top to a World Series.
Well, you all of a sudden have an outfield instead of Carrera, Upton, Pilar. You have an outfield of McCutchen, Pilar, Upton. McCutchen, Pilar, and Upton. And he's right in that middle of that lineup with Tulowitzki and with your MVP and Donaldson, with Martin. It takes a lot of stress off of those bats, and then Morales can slide in that 5 or 6 spot and be sneaky good.
Nah, I don't know. If they can pull it off, and I mean, like you said, those prospects are a few years away. But does this regime of Shapiro and Atkins have the stomach to pull that off when they keep on saying, "Oh, we want to get younger and we like prospects and this kind of thing"? Like, do they? I think that deal's going to fall flat on its face.
Well, for the sake of the fans and for the sake of the starting rotation that we have, which is one of the best in baseball, and we can talk a little bit about that right now before we move on. You've got Aaron Sanchez, you've got J. Happ, Marco Estrada, you've got Marcus Stroman, and you've got Francisco Liriano. What do you think of that rotation? That's going to keep you in a lot of ball games this year. That's going to win you your fair share of ball games alone this year.
Happ and Estrada have had career years the last 2 years. Never had that kind of production before. I just don't know if it's going to keep on going. I don't, and you don't know. I mean, and with the pitching load that Aaron Sanchez placed on himself last year, or they placed on him last year, extra innings, that kind of thing, I don't know. I mean, he's got a young arm still. Who knows if it's going to hold up? They got very lucky last year avoiding the injury bug. I don't know if they're going to get that 2 years in a row. And now Sanchez, I don't know if you heard, but he's planning on pitching in this World Baseball Classic.
For Mexico.
That's extra innings. So it's thrown on his arm there.
I think
when Rogers or Blue Jays did all they could to keep him out of games last year, it seemed.
We're looking at his numbers right now. 192 innings pitched last year for Sanchez. That's before the playoffs. Okay, so that is quite the number considering his innings cap was supposed to be around 150, 170, something like that. It is a lot of innings, but I think he's shown that he can handle it. This guy's a workhorse. He gained a lot of weight. His elbow was just fine through the entire last season. He didn't with only one stint down in Buffalo to kind of recondition. He had a pretty solid 2016.
I'll be interested to see how Liriano fares this year if he's going to get an actual start. Like
I think as the fifth starter, I mean, heck, you could do a lot worse than Liriano as your fifth starter. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, you got to hope he regains some of the Russell Martin magic.
And Martin's still going to be back there, though a year older. I think he's going to be...
They need a backup back catcher, too.
Yeah, that's another thing. They're going to need a backup catcher. They're going to need some lefties in that bullpen, as well as an outfielder, whether it be McCutchen, Bautista, or elsewhere.
Sign me up, Gibby.
So we're going to move on now. We're going to move on to some NFL talk. We've got a crazy wild card weekend is in the books. All games were blowouts. I don't know if that's exactly what the NFL was kind of looking for from wildcard weekend. Normally the wildcard games are absolutely thrilling. They're probably better than the championship and even Super Bowl games most years. What do you think of wildcard weekend?
Well, I mean, you got to take pity on the Oakland Raiders. It's been forever, and just to have your quarterback, Derek Carr, go down like that, and then your second stringer go down literally the game after, and then you have to bring in a rookie who you just drafted, this past spring.
Yeah, he was. I mean, the Oakland situation without Derek Carr, I don't think that team even wins 5 games all season.
Yeah,
I mean, and they're a good young team. They're a good up and coming team. It just really does. It does suck for the fan base there. They haven't won in like as you said, in a long, long time. And I was kind of looking forward to them making maybe a little playoff run with Derek Carr there. And I'm sure
see what Raider Nation was like.
I'm sure they'll be back. I'm sure they'll be back next year.
Well, but you got to hope Derek Carr can rehab that leg and come back strong.
So now Houston moves on to play Mr. Brady and the Patriots. How do you think that one's going to fare?
Well, the line I think is 16. So and I think that's pretty accurate.
I think Brady will. I mean, he says their defense is tough to beat.
Did you hear that Belichick conference?
I did not.
I don't know how he kept a straight face, talking about how Houston has a great defense and the offense is really good and da-da-da. I don't know how you just don't crack up, pull a Jimmy Fallon and start laughing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I think New England has got this one in the bag. They're destined for another Super Bowl appearance. They're going to have to get through either Pittsburgh or Kansas City, though. What do you think about that contest? Pittsburgh and Kansas City both kind of waltzed into the division round here.
Yeah. I mean, Pittsburgh has to be just the name recognition of being there in the past. Kansas City hasn't been great the last little while. I mean, they've been good enough, but not quite getting over the hump there. In that one, I don't know. And then you've got Roethlisberger, who came out in a boot, but, I mean, he says he's fine. I don't know. That was a dumb move, eh? Keeping him in at the end, there was no reason to do that.
Yeah. I think it's setting up to be a Big Ben versus Tom Brady rematch, and everybody wants to see that.
I could see that.
Everybody wants to see that.
I'd like to see the Chiefs just because, like I said, it hasn't been. I mean, I've seen the Steelers before. I haven't seen the Chiefs too often. You know what I mean? But
I think that going into Kansas City and getting a W is kind of a difficult task for a lot of teams. But I think that Pittsburgh was going to come out on top in this one. Let's flip over to the NFC side and the game that everybody is talking about. Everybody wants to see it. It's Rodgers versus those upstart Dallas Cowboys.
Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, ground and pound.
It's going to be very interesting to see those two rookies in their first ever playoff action, I think.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they both played in big games in college, but this is the NFL playoffs. This is separates the men from the boys kind of thing, right?
And they haven't played in two and a half weeks. Like they didn't play in week 17, neither of them. What do you think? Do you think rust is a factor? Do you think it's better for them to have some time off as young players, or do you think older players kind of suffer from it more?
Well, as long as they're staying off boats in Miami, I think they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, Odell really hurt his cause. I mean, they were the only team to beat Dallas in the regular season, the New York Giants, and they just kind of shit the bed against the Green Bay Packers.
We got some breaking news here. Alex Ovechkin just got his 1,000th career point against the Pittsburgh Penguins. We'll circle back to that a little bit later.
We will talk NHL a little bit there, but a little breaking news on the show here. Well, that could be a new segment in the future as well.
Absolutely.
A little breaking sports news. We were talking Odell. What is your opinion on maybe partying on the week of a playoff game on a boat?
I don't have an issue with partying on a boat. It's your off time. You do what you want, kind of thing. Where I take issue is you have to be smarter about it. Like, don't take a picture and post it on social media, that kind of thing. Like, if you just do that kind of stuff quietly, nobody's going to know. But now, in this day and age, everybody's got look what I'm doing all the time, right? And if you're an athlete, you got to try and kind of fly under the radar, because guess what? Sure, if you win, it's no big deal. Like, who cares? Oh, that's hilarious. You did that last week. But now he lost, and he's taking all kinds of heat for it. And, even the day of the game, walking around without their shirts on, that kind of thing.
Field in the freezing cold.
That, you made it a distraction. Like, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Sure, it directly doesn't correlate. Like, you being on a boat on the Monday doesn't really matter in the game. It's not going to affect you physically, but you know what? Mentally, everybody asking you questions every day. Oh, should you have done that? Should you have done that? And then he goes and punches the wall afterwards. Did you see that?
Odell. He's a little bit of a character. He's a little bit of a character, a little bit of a hothead. Some would say.
I wonder how his wife, the goal net's going to feel.
Then that was a whole other story entirely. He's always seeming to make a sideshow of himself, and I kind of feel for Eli. He had kind of a tough game. Love him as a quarterback. But the Giants, they couldn't. They had the Packers where they wanted them after that first quarter. Yeah. It was close. Rodgers wasn't playing well, but then all of a sudden, I'd never bet against Aaron Rodgers.
No, you get the Hail Mary going, and oh, jeez.
So the Packers win, and they will.
Oh yeah, we were talking about Packers Dallas. My bad.
And they will face those Dallas Cowboys. Who do you think has the edge in what's going to be the must-see game of the playoffs so far?
Oh, it's got to be Packers.
You think?
I think so.
Rodgers versus Dak. I would think Rodgers would take that one versus one. But it's a team sport.
You got to think. We'll see. We'll see if Nelson comes back healthy. But they didn't seem to need him against the Giants. I
think Dallas is a bit of a different animal too, though.
I think so, but the playoff experience that Aaron Rodgers has, and that big game moment. Like, he is a big game player.
And it is in Dallas, too, as well. And the running game will be in full effect. It won't be as frigid. Obviously, it's not going to be frigid at all in Dallas indoors. So Ezekiel Elliott will be running all over the Packers,
Jerry
I think,
Jones
in this one.
will be working his magic.
He'll be on the sidelines, that's for sure.
And then we've got Atlanta and Seattle in the other matchup.
The other NFC matchup that people aren't really talking about as much, obviously. Matt Ryan versus Russell Wilson. I think in the past people would have picked Seattle in this matchup, but I think that the Falcons' offense is just too much, and I think that Russell Wilson and the Seahawks kind of had an easy game against the Detroit Lions to get to this point.
Yeah, it was. that game was a joke.
It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
So I think
just all season. The Seahawks just haven't been the Seahawks of old. Those 2 years, they were unbelievable when they went to the Super Bowl and
They
back
couldn't
to
lose
back,
at home, and they
yeah.
can't really play on the road very well anymore in this game. If
I
I'm
mean,
not
I
mistaken,
understand personnel has moved out and that kind of thing, but I don't know. But yeah, I have to agree with you. It's going to be the Falcons all the way.
So you're thinking Green Bay, Atlanta then for the NFC Championship, or are you thinking Dallas, Atlanta?
Green Bay, Atlanta.
Green Bay, Atlanta. Okay, I think I'm going to have to lean Dallas. As much as I dislike the Cowboys and I hate betting against Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, I'm going to have to lean Dallas, Atlanta, and we will come back to these predictions as these weeks go on.
For sure.
But that's who I'm thinking in the NFC.
Make our Super Bowl predictions a little later on.
And we'll make the Super Bowl picks a little later on in the show. We're going to talk some NHL now, and as we just had some breaking news a little bit ago, Alex Ovechkin gets his 1,000th career points
against Sidney Crosby.
And I guess we could start this conversation.
Sid and Ovi.
We could start this conversation with when everything's all said and done with Sid and Ovi. How are they going to be remembered? How is Ovi going to be remembered compared to Sid?
I think Ovi will always be remembered as that fantastic scorer who could never quite make it.
Whose team could never quite make it?
Yeah.
Or he, like in the playoffs?
In the playoffs, I mean, Russia, like playing for Russia, that kind of thing. Like
the big game player that never quite won the big one.
Exactly.
Or at least not yet in his career.
Not yet. But I mean, this Capitals team is fantastic, and they could, I mean, the last 2 years they've been right there, but just can't quite get over that hump.
Yeah, and I think with Braden Holtby another year into his fantastic goaltending play, I think the Capitals are primed for quite the run this year again.
Yeah, I mean, and they keep adding little tweaks here and there. They don't do a whole lot of overhauling, but I think Oshie was a good pickup.
And I think Barry Trotz and his defensive kind of style has really had a lasting effect on the Kuznetsovs and the Backstroms and the Ovi.
I love Barry Trotz. I think he's a fantastic coach. I think he's done wonders there. I mean, I don't know why he ever got nailed in Nashville there.
I think there was just a whole lack of offense, but there wasn't the personnel to have offense on that team. It was a defense-only team.
And you see Poli now. He's making deals that are falling flat on their faces. That Seth Jones deal? Terrible.
Yeah.
What's Johansson doing? Not a whole lot.
No.
And then the Shea Weber deal for PK.
Well, I mean, I think we can say right now Montreal has won the Shea Weber deal.
Everyone was saying, "Oh, Nashville's going to win this one."
Maybe in 5 years they'll win this one, but Weber is a dominant force still in this NHL today.
I think PK Subban is almost too big a personality for the NHL.
Yeah.
Like, he unsettles the room. Hockey players have a certain kind of culture, and they don't like the boat being rocked, and I mean...
And he kind of did that in Montreal a little bit, I think.
He did.
As much as the fans loved him in the hospitals and the kids, everybody loved him for everything that he did.
I think he's a fantastic person. I mean, you listen to him talk. I watched a bit of his documentary, that kind of thing. He's a great guy, but I just don't think he's a fit in the locker room. And maybe as he matures, and he can kind of... You know what would be ideal? If you have him and Shea Weber together, so Shea Weber could pass on the leadership traits. But good luck getting that.
Good luck having those two salaries fit on the same team in today's NHL would just be absolutely insane. So we're going to talk little Leafs now as well. They made a little minor move today, moving on from backup goalie Jonas Enroth, picking up Curtis McElhinney from the let's talk about them as well in a little bit. The Columbus Blue Jackets. Very, very impressive Columbus Blue Jackets. You have to think McElhinney. You have to think McElhinney was an integral part in the 13-game win streak.
No, because they kicked him out right after.
I mean, I think
that 7th rounder they picked up for Enroth is going to be huge in a few years.
It's got to be, when the Shanna plan is in full effect right now. It's in full effect in Toronto.
Mark will agree some wheels, I'll tell you what.
I think he's going to kind of stabilize the back end there, backup-wise.
You'd hope so. I mean, he's had a respectable career as a backup, and I think he's old enough to know his fit. As a backup goalie, you kind of have to have a certain mindset. Like, sure, your first few years as a backup, you're probably going to be a little teed off, and you want to fight for that number one spot. But as you kind of grow and mature, you have to realize and take a step back and be like, I can be a really good number two.
And as much as I love Bebo and Sparks, those guys need to play every day. They need to play every day with the Marlies for them to get better. They cannot be. I mean, Frederick Anderson's the clear number one. He's been playing unbelievable since the first month of the season's gone by. His numbers are stellar, right in the top of the league, near it in a lot of goaltending categories from that point on.
And I think McElhinney will help him learn how to be a pro as well. I mean, the kid's only 25 years old.
He's still young. Yep.
He's still finding his way in the NHL, still learning it, right? So McElhinney's been around the block a few times, and he can kind of help him in that respect too.
So not just talking Leafs goaltending, but the entire Leafs team as a whole this year has been quite the surprise.
Austin Matthews, all-star.
A very young team. Austin Matthews is the leader of the young core now.
And there
in
could
Toronto.
be a few in the All-Star game. I mean, I'd say Marner wouldn't look out of place there. Or,
Morgan Riley.
Morgan Riley, yeah.
Was had another fantastic year for the Leafs. A very young defenseman still in his own right.
Yeah.
I think the Leafs are going in the right direction.
Need some help on the back end, but that'll come.
I think the Leafs are going to try and start drafting defensemen, and they might even try and trade for one as a trade deadline.
I'm hearing JVR being floated out there, or Michael Nylander. I don't know if you really want to get rid of either of those.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it depends if JVR is going to re-sign. He's still got one more year on his deal, but if they think they can re-sign him at a reasonable price for what he is,
true enough,
then I think that you keep him. I mean, if not, then I think you try and get a defensive asset for him, just because you need defense right now. I mean, that's what's holding this team back. They've blown leads left, right, and center. They could have double the amount of wins they got right now. I mean, on the amount of leads that they've blown.
Well, they could have quite a bit more if they could perform in the shootout too.
That is very true. And with snipers like Marner and Matthews, like you'd think that they would do so much better.
Somebody get that Troy from the U.S. team up here.
he stole the show in the World Juniors. That's for sure.
Back to the Leafs, though. I was going to say that there are quite a few guys in the minors that they could throw out there on the trade block, too, that they could probably pick up some defensive help anyways. I mean, Matt Hunwick and Pollock aren't quite cut.
They're not quite getting it done.
I like that Shostnikov kid, though.
Yeah, he hasn't looked out of place really on that fourth line.
Zaitsev.
Nikita Zaitsev. Soshnikov, the right winger
Russians.
there. Both Russians, yes. They have a few prospects in the minors as well with the Marlies and Brendan Leipzig and Kasperi Kapanen. I don't think you're going to need all of these young forwards. You might have to use some of them as trade bait.
Exactly. You can't have all of those forwards. I mean, all those guys, high-end skill type thing, right?
They're all top six, potentially top six
and
players,
they're going to want the puck, and they're going to want the ice time kind of thing. And, you want that going to your top players. Mm-hmm. I mean, your Mitch Marner and your Austin Matthews, obviously. And... there's just not enough puck for all of them.
So as we sit today, the Leafs are just a couple points back of the Boston Bruins. They have, I think, like five games in hand on the Bruins, and they're having a bye week, and they've played the least amount of games out of everybody pretty much in the NHL, which is, I think, kind of odd. But
I'm not sure I like this. I mean, I like the idea of the bye week, but the NHL really needs to extend the season to accommodate that. These guys are getting too run down. I mean, they just compressed the schedule. The amount of they've got 18 back-to-backs this year.
Yeah, because of the bye week.
Because of the bye week and the World Cup of Hockey, or is it the World Cup of Hockey? World Championships?
The World Championships and the World Cup. The World Cup at the beginning of the year, kind of set everything back a bit.
Quote unquote World Cup.
So for these bye weeks, not just for the Leafs, who are a young team, but kind of for the older teams too, do you think it helps them more or hurts them to have a week off?
I've heard both. I mean, Evgeny Malkin said he wasn't fond of it, and he felt it hard getting back to practice. But then the Penguins went out and scored 6 goals the day after.
And you would think a team like that maybe would come back a little sluggish, or maybe the Leafs who play on Friday next.
They're going to be a disaster. It's going to be a tire fire on Friday.
It might be a little hard to get the legs going because they've had so many days off.
Matthews out on a boat with Josh Leva.
A lot of boat talk in this episode.
Pulling the old Odell.
Hot
that's yacht
for sure. Talk. So, we were going to talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets too before we move away from the NHL.
We were going to talk. Torts.
John Tortorella has kind of reemerged as a coach again. I mean, who would have thunk this would have even happened?
Well, I mean, and you look at the resurgence that he's had, and from all accounts, he's changed his coaching style completely, which is fantastic because I know guys would get sick of him. I mean, he's taken a page out of Ken Hitchcock's book from what I can see, because Hitch reinvented himself too. That's an odd situation too, eh?
Yeah, Kent
saying he's gonna
he's done after this year.
They hire Mike Yeo to replace him, kind of thing. But
yeah, that's kind of a. I mean, you don't see that very often where a coach says he's going to be done after a year. You don't. I mean, it's not like a farewell tour for a coach like Ortiz did.
People should be giving him gifts or what?
but how is
60 pounds of salmon when he goes to Vancouver?
How has Columbus done this? How has Columbus become the top of the league, and how has Minnesota become kind of a force as well? The two last expansion teams in the
it's
in the
by
NHL.
committee is what it is. I mean, they don't have those big star players. I mean, sure, in Minnesota you have Suter and Zajac, not Zajac, the other one from New Jersey.
In Minnesota?
Yeah.
Well, you've got Koivu. Suter.
And he signed at the same time. Identical deals. We're going to have to look this up.
Yeah, we are
this
going to
is
have to look this
great
up.
podcasting right here. But anyways, you have those two guys, and the guy who's not Suter, he was never really striking it when he was in New Jersey either. But I mean, just the team around him built, and
you've got a goalie now in Devin Dubnyk, who is just.
Well, do you have a goalie though? Because he was terrible in Edmonton.
And then all of a sudden, he's turned it on with a .939 save. We're just looking at some stats here. .939 save percentage this year for Devin Dubnyk. I think, and when they played each other with the two longest win streaks in NHL history, I thought that was something really interesting in the NHL. Kind of, I did not even think that this was ever going to even happen.
No kidding, eh?
Between those two teams, I mean, like this is just kind of a
Zach Parise,
yes, and he didn't really catch on in New Jersey, like not too much, but now he's kind of found a home in Minnesota, and they've kind of taken off a bit.
Yeah, but he's not a household name. I mean, you look at me, I couldn't even think of it, and I mean, I knew he played on New Jersey. I just didn't know what his name was. But like I said, and there's no real big names in Columbus either. I mean, you got Bobrovsky, but I mean, other than that, I can't really think of
Jack Johnson.
Still, I mean, he's not a superstar. You're not seeing him.
Cam Atkinson's come out of nowhere and just started putting up the points.
He's always been a bit of a player though. Like he has always had potential, and now he's finally living up to it. Is what I'm kind of seeing. I mean, Seth Jones is still fairly young, but
you look at their record too. Columbus is 28-8. I mean, their home record 16-4. That cannon has got to be scaring a whole lot of opponents every time it goes off when they're scoring goals at home.
You gotta love that though, eh? It's all about the fan experience.
It's absolutely incredible. I would love to hear it live and see a Columbus Blue Jackets game live, which is kind of odd to say. Kind of odd to say.
It is. I mean, Cleveland is looking up. Or Ohio, I guess.
Ohio is looking up. And this is actually a good transition to our final topic of this podcast. We're going to talk a little NBA. And we're going to talk a little Raptors and Cavs. On this. We're going to talk a little bit about LeBron James, who is still absolutely killing it. And how is he still doing this with this Cleveland team?
He's LeBron James. He's a freak. He's unbelievable. I mean, there's nothing that guy can't do. And now they've added Kyle Korver, which opens up a bit of space, or he just sit there and hit threes all day.
Korver, just leave him wide open?
Just leave him wide open.
Yeah, because he's going to hit those threes.
Absolutely.
Like the NBA 2K whatever, that he was absolutely ridiculous in NBA 2K7, something like that. So if this comes down to the Raptors and the Cavs again in the Eastern Conference Finals...
I don't think the Raps will even get there.
So you don't think the Raps are going to get to the conference finals again? That would be a pretty tough task to do in its own right.
Oh, I mean, you see how well Boston's come on.
Boston has come on pretty strong the last little bit. The Raptors did just beat them last night, but it was kind of a lucky
even
win.
Last year they fluked in. I mean, the rotation got messed up in Indiana there, and the coach got fired for it.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets it right, and all of a sudden the Raptors are out in the first round
again. In Game 7. So then they go on and they beat Miami in 7 games as well. I mean, Lowry hits a miracle shot in one of those games. It's just, and they ended up losing that game in overtime. Actually, that was Game 6.
You got to be lucky to be good, and good to be lucky.
And I mean, they don't really count how they get there. It's just if you get there, and the Raptors have got there. As the team is currently constructed right now, do they have a chance against the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Absolutely not.
Do you think there would be a 4-game sweep, or do you think they would kind of push it, kind of like they did last year?
I think Cleveland would sweep them this year. Just because last year they kind of toyed with them a little.
I kind of got that feeling too. I mean, they've already lost 3 games to them this year.
Yeah. LeBron wouldn't get embarrassed like that again.
No. Now the Raptors, they have been involved in multiple trade rumors. They've been involved with Boogie Cousins, DeMarcus Cousins in Sacramento.
Boogie Cousins.
And they've been involved in Paul Millsap rumors for the last probably month.
Well, now they're saying Millsap's off the table. But
they're saying
I don't
Millsap's
know if
off the table.
Saying that to kind of drive prices up or to make him feel better.
But also, Atlanta's still in the playoff race, too. They want to still field the team. But the Raptors had apparently a deal on the table for Paul Millsap.
You're throwing in the towel.
Yeah, he was the backbone of that team. Absolutely, for sure. I believe that's Atlanta there. I think they're 22-16 on the season here. They're still kind of in the playoff race, but Millsap was a deal for Paul Millsap was on the table.
Was it?
Before the season was even started. And then the Raptors kind of took it back. They didn't want to go for that deal. Do you think a Paul Millsap or even DeMarcus Cousins would be kind of a fit in the way the Raptors are currently constructed?
I mean, Millsap is an upgrade at the 4, but I don't know if you make that deal. I mean, I've said this to you in the past. I don't know if it's worth trying, to be honest with you. I mean, Cleveland's going to win.
Because you have a ceiling with this team.
Exactly.
With
so do you just blow it up, trade everybody? I mean, Kyle's going to expect millions of dollars. Do you trade him now to a team and get something back for him? DeMar still has... Sure, you just signed him.
You just signed. He's your core player. You're not going to tank much with DeMar.
Do we trade him? Get some assets. Get some young players.
So we could end up in a Minnesota Timberwolves, Philadelphia 76ers flux where you're bad for 10 years.
I don't know if it's going to take 10 years. You think it's going to take 10 years?
Well, I mean, those teams have been bad for God knows
but they
how
don't
long.
got Masai Ujiri.
No, that's true. That's true. But, I mean, yes, there is a ceiling with this team when it comes to how far they can go. And unless something catastrophic happens to LeBron or the Cavs, I mean, maybe their plane crashes or something.
Well,
Geez,
knock on wood.
real dark
terrible.
Here. But
wow.
But they can't get past that team.
Everybody could get hurt on Cleveland except for LeBron, and LeBron would still drag that team to a championship.
So do you think that this Raptors fan base deserves them to at least go for it? Go for it in a sense, like go and get a player just to say, you know what, we're gonna take a run at this because how often are we gonna be this good?
You take a run. Yeah, sure. You throw out some assets, Pirtle or
Terrence Ross, whoever,
Bruno Caboclo, whatever, and then you get Paul Millsap or you get Boogie Cousins, which I think is ridiculous because I don't think, one, he would ever come here, and two, I don't think they have the assets to get that kind of asset back.
Well, if he gets traded, he has to come here, But
do you think he should? I mean, Derrick Rose. He just pulls a Derrick Rose. See ya.
And just doesn't show up.
Just doesn't show up.
I think, he's been in Sacramento for so long. He has lost for so long. He comes to a team where they have a legitimate shot at an Eastern Conference championship with him there. I think that he would relish that opportunity. To kind of rebuild his value, maybe.
I hope so. But anyways, back to my point. Say you trade those assets to get something back, whether it's Boogie Cousins, Paul Millsap, or whoever. Dirk Nowitzki. Anyways, so you get this player that you think is going to help you make a run at LeBron, and you lose to LeBron. You've lost those assets. You're stuck with this older player who's making millions of dollars. You have to re-sign Kyle for it's probably going to be $20 million or so.
Close to a max deal, yeah.
Well, almost 30 now. What is it? And then you're stuck in limbo for 10 years anyways. So it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
But I think at this point the fans would just rather be damned if you do because you're at least showing them that, you know what, at some point you have to go for it. At some point you have to be like, okay, we're going to go all in because we are tired of being second place. And we're tired, and no matter how long LeBron's going to be there.
It's almost Leaf syndrome, right?
Almost.
Where you feed the line to the fan every year. Oh, what they used to do. They go out after the big free agent and make a big trade at the deadline to kind of push you there. Or get the David Clarkson in because he's going to bring us truculence. And then you're terrible anyways, or you lose anyways.
But the thing is, so far this team has improved every year, and they haven't been not making it.
Oh, that's true.
They have improved win-wise under Dwayne Casey and Ujiri every year to this point, and I think they're on pace for to improve in wins again this year. And the East is getting better every year, and they're still improving with the East.
I guess.
So I think they really owe it to the fans and to Kyle and DeMar for coming back here constantly, for playing their hearts out every night, to at least give them an extra piece, to at least give her a little harder against LeBron.
But I mean, like you see, they can't beat the best teams. They can't beat the best teams.
They
kept it close at the beginning of the year, but as the year goes on, those gaps get further and further apart. I mean, they pretty much got blowed out in Golden State there the other night.
Yeah, and they lost to San Antonio by almost 30.
Well, yeah.
So they have some work to do against the better teams in the league. But I think that as this still a very, very young team.
And they lose to teams that they should beat.
Well, that doesn't happen very often anymore.
Oh, but it still happens.
It still happens, yes. And I mean, I think last night was
in the fourth quarter.
Last night, and the defense has been kind of inconsistent this year as well.
You brought Damari Carroll in to shore up the defense, and that doesn't seem to be working out.
And I think his injury problems have been a lot worse than I think they thought when they were going to get.
So maybe we don't trade with Atlanta because obviously they got something to hide.
Yeah, they hide some injuries on their players, but I think Paul Millsap would be an upgrade over a Damari Carroll in the starting lineup. And I think that you would be able to do a lot more offensively and defensively with that starting five. Your bench might be a little more limited. You might not have as much depth, and that's what
I'll tell you, those two rookies look good, though.
Pirtle and Siakam.
Yeah.
They do look good. They're going to be Raptors, I think, for a while, unless they do get traded for these players we've been talking about. But it's going to be interesting to see.
When's Bruno getting here?
He's 2 years from being 2 years away. Yeah, he's 6'5" every shift at the 905.
Shift 6'5" every shift. Well, that's what Babcock loves about Curtis McElhinney.
Yeah, he's
6'3" every shift.
6'3" every shot against.
Every shot against.
Well, we're going to leave it here for this episode of Sports Chatter with Bax and Patter. We hope you enjoyed it.
We forgot our whatever happened to.
Oh, you want to do the whatever happened to?
Oh, I don't know. We'll just throw it out. Anthony Bennett getting released by the
Brooklyn Nets. We'll do this segment's called Whatever Happened To. High draft picks that have faltered, and this is a Canadian basketballer. His name is Anthony Bennett. Whatever happened to Anthony Bennett?
Well, you jumped around. You got first overall by Cleveland Cavaliers, and didn't seem to work out too well there. And then he went to
Brooklyn.
No, he was here at the 905 last year.
He was here with the Raptors for a little bit, and then he went to Brooklyn.
Yeah,
he just
released him the other day.
He couldn't quite catch on, and it just kind of goes to show the college game doesn't exactly translate into the NBA a lot of the time.
No, flipping burgers.
So now he's going to be stuck flipping burgers. Somewhere in Toronto, somewhere.
Yeah,
who knows?
We'll see him. 5 guys.
That was whatever happened to. We're going to find a lot more guys that didn't really work out, whether it be past or
Robbie Shrimp. Whatever happened to Robbie Shrimp?
We'll get into Robbie Shrimp and more on the next episode of Sports Chatter with Bax and Patter. I'm Brandon Bax. Follow me at B_Bax_ on Twitter.
Me at PGR10.
And we hope to see you soon.
Have a good one.